Greetings from Tokyo once again. Sorry about that. I think I tried to start it on a separate feed, but it looks like there was some audio issues. But I hope there are no audio issues with this now. We shall see. Let's see here. Oh. There we go. How's the audio on this now? Is that better? Let's see. There we go. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Excellent. I don't know what happened there, but I'm glad that it was fixed okay. Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I hope you're well. Thank you so much. And great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sounds good. So I don't know. Is that still? I hope my other one isn't up. I'll try to get rid of it. Let's see here. How do I get rid of that live? I don't know. Let's see. Is that right? Oh, that's not it. Get to that one. All right. Sorry about this. Just getting myself organized here for everything. Great. I hope that's okay. So I think there's some technical issues, but hopefully they are all set. And then we can go from there. All right. Great. So, oops. There we go. Great. Wonderful. All right. So we will start in about, I don't know, a few minutes. It's still not quite 7 a.m. here in Tokyo. So we shall start in about a few minutes and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for joining. I really, really appreciate it. So we'll be talking about Supergirl, 1984's film, Supergirl, directed by Janot Swark and starring Helen Slater and Faye Dunaway and Hart Buckner and Peter O'Toole and Brenda Vaccaro and many, many others. So, and so just it's a very interesting film, and I'm looking forward to the conversation very much. So, looking forward to it. So just hold on tight, and the chat's open and available in case you want to talk. But in the meantime, let's just wait a couple more minutes before we begin in earnest. So, again, greetings from Tokyo. I hope all is well. Thank you. I just wanted to get. There we go. That's one thing. So. Oh, so Mike, you say, gosh, I haven't seen this film in ages. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, it's one that I've seen too. I saw when I was a kid, and it was I saw it many times as a kid. But I'll talk about that a little when we get into the discussion in earnest. So, but anyway, yes. Great stuff. Wonderful. All right. Well, we shall start in momentarily. So just hold on for one more moment, and we will begin. Okay. Zyrother says, first time seeing this, and I do not know how to describe my feelings. Okay, that's no problem. No problem at all. All right. Not a problem at all. So, I don't know how I don't know if it's the most popular of this, say, universe of films because it is in the same universe as the um, what do you call it, as the other Superman films that we talked about thus far. So it is in the same universe, although it does have a different, unique feel and a sort of cinematic flavor from those films. So it in one of the in many ways perhaps that can be seen as a type of weakness, but also I think at the same time or on the same token, it could be seen as a very strong strength. um, so thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this immensely. So, but anyway, thank you. So let's see. Joe is here. Joe, thank you so much. And let's see. You say Daisuke. I just wanted to say thank you for. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Um, whilst reading your Instagram post on your mother earlier, I was nearly in tears. Oh, that's wow. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much for leaving this message. Yes, yes. I was having dinner and a drink with some close friends, and we were talking about a family, and so my the topic of my mother came up. So yes, it brought back so many feelings. So I just wanted to express. I apologize for my my how to say my expression on Instagram. Please pardon me for that type of indulgence on my part. But thank you so much for reading, and thank you so much for the response. You know, it's something that's very personal to me, but it's also something that is not, how should I say? It is also a very much a part of me and who I am right now. So, and I owe so many memories about cinema, including Supergirl, and I'll try to explain that. I owe so many memories. Um, I have many, many memories and feelings, both positive and not so positive. But that's that's I'm beginning to understand that that's part of being, human, I suppose, and so and a part of this life, right? And so, but part of the joy, I think, of recalling all these films and part of the great enjoyment that I get talking about a lot of these films, including Supergirl, is the opportunity to recall some of those fonder memories of days gone by. So, including again watching Supergirl with my mom and my dad in the theater when it originally opened. So, and I'll try to share about that very much. So, thank you so much, Joe. You're very, very kind. Sending all the love I can your way, Mike. Well, thank you so much. That's very kind of you, Joe. Warmest, warmest regards. Thank you. Thank you. And Zyrother says, sponsored by A&W. Yes, that's right. There's a lot of A&W. So, yeah. And Mike says, I have always appreciated your openness on this channel. Truly admirable. Well, not at all. Not at all. I don't talk about so many things, actually, on this channel. I'm not such that open of a person. So there's a lot of things I don't talk about. But that's not to say that things are, how should I put it? Maybe I don't have so many things that are very exciting in my life, but uh, uh, it's I'm very, very grateful for people who are expressing an interest in what it is I might have to say or what might be thinking about or feeling at a given moment in time. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone who expresses an interest. So thank you. All right. So we will begin, as I say, let's give it another couple minutes, and then we'll go from there. So, excuse me, my morning ritual of coffee is a little bit. We ran out of coffee. It was my last. I had to run out and go to the vending machine and get a can of coffee. So, Supergirl. Yeah. Peter Cook. I forgot to mention Peter Cook's in this film as well. Great, great. Nigel. Yes. So many great characters in this film. It's such a quirky film. So, but all right, give it another moment. I know, very exciting live stream content right now. I know, hearing me pour some beverage into my cup. All right, shall we begin? All right, let's begin in earnest then. So, greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and thank you very much for joining on another live stream discussion wherein the topic today is the film, which is the one, the only 1984 film Supergirl. And this is Jano Swart, and stars Helen Slater and Faye Dunaway and Peter Cook and Peter O'Toole. And it's such fun. It has a lot of allure and quirkiness, and I think odd factors about it. It's certainly a film that is, I think, there's a lot to say and a lot to discuss. Um, hold on. So, there we go. There's a lot to say and a lot to discuss about it. And it's my hope that we can maybe just share a few thoughts and comments about this, I guess I say, very intriguing and quite maybe in many ways maybe eye-opening film in a lot of ways. I would also make the argument, as I will try during the course of this, that it is, I think, worthy of consideration. It is a film, of course, set in the universe of the Superman films that we have talked about thus far: Superman the movie, Superman 2, and then Superman 3. It is set in that world, but uh, I would say too that it does stand on its own in a number of ways, in a very intriguing ways. It also, I think, has a great, maybe for lack of a better phrase, a type of cult film appeal about it, and it's a product of the '80s, and so that I think has a lot in its favor in terms of that type of cult film appeal aspect. And there are a lot of really weird, quirky choices that are made in this film, thus making it, I think, even more of that type of cult film status uh, appeal. And so, for these and other reasons, I've been very much looking forward to this film discussion. And so, today we will be talking about this film, which is Supergirl from 1984. Now, before we begin, I should point out that let's see. Yes. So, as with everything, this is a live stream discussion. We will be talking about details of the film Supergirl. So, if you haven't seen Supergirl from 1984, and please, I encourage you to maybe switch off this live stream right now, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen the film, because there are a lot of pleasant things to discover and surprises along the way for those who haven't seen the film. So the last thing I want to do is ruin that for you. So you can turn off this live stream and then watch the film at your own pace and schedule. And then anytime you're ready, you can always come back. Again, if you're still interested, of course, you can always come back and you can watch this discussion. I'll be talking about this throughout the course of the next few hours, and then it'll be uploaded as a video after the fact. So just in case you're interested, my dear friends, we will be talking about, you can always come back and we can, again, talk about this film, Supergirl, again, when you've seen the film. So at your whatever works for you in terms of your schedule. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is the live chat is open for people who are who want to talk about this film, who want to send a message or say hello. So please feel free to use the live chat function here on YouTube for that purpose. I'm not in any way an expert when it comes to Supergirl, so I don't have the ability to be able to answer all of the questions that might be posed to me or to others here with regard to this film. So if I'm unable to provide any response that is to your satisfaction, please let me take this opportunity to apologize in advance. It's not my intention to uh, create a feeling of dissatisfaction, but just merely I'm not an expert when it comes to this film, but I am coming at this, I'm approaching this as a fan. And having seen this film again since it was released, because I did see it in the theaters when it was initially released. So, and I've seen it many times since. And so I'm coming at this as a fan and someone who has seen it a number of times, but I don't have all the expertise available to me at the moment. So if there are any responses that I make that are incorrect or to your not to your satisfaction, then please forgive me. It's not my intention to create any type of lack of harmony. On the contrary, but just to give you a heads up, that's my approach as a type of casual fan of this film. And also the live chat too. The live chat people have been always so kind and so responsive and so respectful to me. And I'm very, very honored. And I'm always so grateful for that type of support and attention that people have been giving to these discussions on this channel and elsewhere, of course. So thank you so much for that. And I know that that spirit of a type of maybe respect, mutual respect during the course of discussion will carry on throughout the course of today's live chat. So thank you so much for always being so respectful to others. And I know that that spirit of mutual respect will continue on over the course of today. So thank you so much. And I want to give a shout out also to the moderators. Thank you so much for all that you do in terms of helping me out and talking to people and being so say engaging and being so cooperative with everyone. Thank you so much. So, and just a quick thing, of course, we don't have to don't worry about deleting any comments. Any comments are open and welcome. So even comments that might be perceived as being somewhat negative or somewhat, maybe somewhat even to the point of being somewhat insulting or something, that's okay. We'll leave up all the comments. Comments, I don't believe we need to delete any comments here, except for things that are very obviously spam. If there's something that is obviously spam, we can just very gently just push it to the side. But if there's something that's just maybe even it's not quite clear or something, let's always leave things up, because I do like to give the opportunity for people to say what it is they want to say. And so that's perfectly fine. And if there's something that's maybe an unpleasant comment, that's okay, not a problem at all. There have been it's a discussion about Supergirl after all, so that's the point, and so that's what I want to focus on. So no worries about any unpleasant comments. I don't think that's going to happen anyway, because everyone's always very nice when it comes to these discussions here, which is again one of the things that I'm so thankful for people and your continued support for me and for everyone here. So thank you so much for that, my dear friends. So before we move forward with the discussion in earnest, let me go to the live chat, and we will go from there. iScope Cinema is here. Hello. And let's see. Zyrothers says, "This is what I came for. Exciting action." Ross Jordan is here. Hello. Seth Walsh is here. My dear friend. Hello. Just popping by to say hello. I haven't seen Supergirl, but I love to hear your memories of seeing this film and others with your parents. Listening to your talk about movie memories makes me so happy. Well, that's very kind of you, Seth. Thank you so much. Thank you. Zyrother says, a film very much in its own style. Yes, that's for sure. David Squire says, my favorite Helen Slater film ever. Well done. Well done. Floydian Pink says, hey, Daisuke. Wave, and nice to see you, my dear friend. Jason R. La Riviere, it's nice to see you, Jason. And you say, hey, Daisuke, greetings from New York City, NYC. Excited for this conversation. We're going to need to talk about Jerry Goldsmith's score. Yes. We need to, and we shall. And so let us begin with that, because of course we have the opening of this. Well, actually, before we get to the film proper, let me say That again, as my sort of opening salvo in this discussion, I should say that yes, this was from the early 1980s, 1984, correct, and it was released in theaters. And I remember, I don't remember all the specifics about going to the movie theater because I would have been about 5 years old or so, so very, very young. But it's almost what, nearly 40 years ago. Wow, that's a real that really wow. That's time certainly flies, does it not? But what was I saying? Yes, so 1980s time. I was a kid, but my parents took me to a theater to see Supergirl. I remember, I don't remember specifically about seeing, whatever it is, the marketing at the time. Again, memories are very foggy at best, but I do remember going to the theater. And I remember watching the film Supergirl again with my mom and my dad. And we were the only ones in the theater. And so we looked around, and it was a kind of strange experience. It was a huge theater. It was one of these, whatever the size of whatever it is, a multiplex theater would have been back in the 1980, circa 1984. I was in the States at the time, but we went, and we were the only ones in the theater. So it was a kind of funny anecdotal thing that after the fact, even years after the fact, we would still be talking about, my mom and my dad would be talking maybe in the kitchen, and they'd say, "Oh, do you remember that time years ago when we went to Supergirl and we were the only ones in the theater?" That sort of thing. So it created this very interesting bond between and among us. It was that bond of watching the film Supergirl, and we were the only ones in the theater. So but then the film started, and I remember having no feelings of disappointment. And in fact, I remember really getting into the film. And that feeling of engagement in the film, I think, carried on as I would catch up with the film as I was getting a little bit older. Still, I was a kid growing up, but it would be shown, for instance, on TV, or you could rent it on VHS at rental stores. And so that was, excuse me, that was a um, that was a real great time. It was a watching the film and seeing the promos on TV again for the broadcast of the film on TV. So I would be a little bit older. So now my memories are becoming a little bit more congealed. And so whenever there are certain clips of the film Supergirl that I watch now, I remember, oh yeah, this is the same clip that I saw in that TV advert or that commercial that was promoting the broadcast version of Supergirl or something like that. So those memories are now fondly associated with this film as I watch it, even now, even now. I think maybe I might have a feeling of, how should I put it? Oh, and one other thing too, before I get to that. Now, when I was young, during this time, I would watch it a lot of times, and I really enjoy it. I really get into it. And when I revisit the film now, as I'm in my 30s and now my 40s, I look at the film, and I watched the film very recently for purposes of preparing for this discussion. And so I think I see that, oh my goodness, this is a very strange film. There are some moments that are really odd, very, very odd, kind of quirky, and very almost mysterious, almost mischievous or mischievous. And so almost very sly and very, very maybe under the radar type of things that are going on that maybe I wasn't quite aware of when I was watching this as a kid. So there are a lot of, I admit, quite odd, idiosyncratic, quirky things about some of the choices that are made here. But I think that adds, as I was trying to mention earlier, that adds to a type of charm of the film. And I think it makes it very much a great worthy contender for, if anything, a type of cult status film. It is so thoroughly an 80s film through and through, by the by, and it has that aesthetic and mystique and quality about it, that's for sure. And it also has this way of trying, I think, to set itself apart from what had been so well established in the same universe with Superman the movie and Superman 2 and Superman 3 in terms of that character. But it was trying to create types of links, of course, with that character in the world, but at the same time trying to stand independently. And I think Supergirl does that very well because I think a lot of the choices that are made make this film so unique, while still, again, sharing the same universe in a manner of speaking. So I admire that approach very much. It might not work for everyone. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but it doesn't have to. If it's not one's cup of tea, then there's no rule that says one must like this film. Or that's true for any film, of course. But if it does, I think, have a strong appeal, and it's something that I'll try to express over the course of today, when I'll do my best. I should say one other thing too. I know that there are a number of versions. There are a number of different, say, released, let's say, running time versions of the film. For instance, this Blu-ray that I have here has what's purported to be like the international version and the director's version on two separate discs. The director's version is on the DVD here on this release that I have. So, but my conversation today will not be reliant on any one version or the other. So don't worry if you haven't seen all of the versions. I'll try to make my comments as universal as possible. So no need to worry about that, my dear friends. So. But in any event, let us begin in earnest, which is, yes, Jason mentioned the great Jerry Goldsmith's score, and that opens the film. And this is, I think, one of the first hallmarks of where we can say that there are these spiritual links to the universe and the myth that is Superman. But now we are already grounded in our own separate mythos. And so this is Jerry Goldsmith's score, which has certain overtones and, say, maybe it has a type of almost how should one say it doesn't, it's not John Williams' score, which is, I think, great, but it does have a sense of the spectacle and the awe, which we know is part of the John Williams score for Superman in its own way. Here, Jerry Goldsmith's score has that great, great sense of what I like about it. It has a sense of distance. There's the bit where it starts with da 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 da, and it goes, and it has those little, it has the da 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 da, and during the whole bit with the main theme, it has the little sound like pew, right? Pew, pew. I don't know how to describe it. Pew. You know what I mean? I love that little sound because it makes it stand out from the John Williams score automatically, and also it has a sense of speed and travel, and also has a sense of kind of magic, because this film is also about magic and flight, etc. And it also has a sense of fancy free, which is, I think, a great way to describe the whole atmosphere and the characters of Supergirl. It has a sense of a type of fanciful, innocent quality about it that's also meant to be fun and engaging and exciting. So I think the Jerry Goldsmith score is wonderful, and it's set off on these great titles, which is like this like smoky, I don't know, like dry ice type of room with these silver flashing credits that are going, which again, it's similar yet different from the credits that we know that are very iconic from the Superman films. We're not flying through space, we're flying through this dry ice fog, with the great names, Faye Dunaway, Helen Slater, and Peter Cook, Peter O'Toole, etc. So it's really wonderful. It has that. It's similar yet it's different, which is what I really admire and appreciate very much. And so. So yes, so that's I think a great hallmark of this film from the very get-go. It feels similar, yet it's also I think immediately announcing that it's going to be standing on its own independently, not in a way that's disrespectful, and not in a way that is maybe making fun of the tone of the Superman films. I think, on the contrary, it is striking a very great balance in terms of showing a sense of respect for what has very triumphantly set the stage in terms of critical and financial success in terms of this universe, while at the same time trying to forge its own path. And I really admire that approach very much. So it's already announced at the very start, and then we get into these really, how should I put it, this this entrance into this world, Argo City. And here's another thing too that we have to remember. Another way that this film is setting itself apart, while also I think creating these great links. So Argo City, we understand it's this floating, I don't know how to explain it. It's this floating like ice cream sculpture or like paper mache thing in space. It looks like, I don't know, looks like a snow cone or something with lights flying around it. So it's very interesting. And you go in, and it has this wonderful. It's like a, I don't know, like a, it looks like this really, like, I don't know, commune where people are wearing these really interesting clothes, and again this kind of paper mache type of thing, and you think, and it seems to be in space or some kind of space, inner space, as Zoltar will mention it later. We are in inner space. Earth is in outer space. So talk about a great explanation of the physics of this world, right? Just enough information to get us started. Oh yes, of course, that makes perfect sense, right? So, but yes, so we're in this. So it's already announcing itself. Again, it feels, there's a certain feel that reminds us maybe of the architecture and look of Krypton from the Superman films, in terms of the way in which, say, the white plaster effect maybe reminds us of maybe that ice or cool distant effect from the architecture from Krypton from, say, Superman the movie. But it also feels very different. The clothing is different. It feels very much like a, I don't know, um, like a tree house type of thing, and the like. And I should say too that if you're going to be in outer space, or not inner space, but if or inner space or outer space, whatever the case is, right? If you're going to have the structure that is obviously protecting people from, say, whatever's outside, which seems to be lacking in gravity, I would totally go for double glazing on those windows. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be satisfied with the single glaze, almost like garbage bag, plastic glass that seems to be covering the outer exterior of Argo City. I would go for a little bit more double glazing if I were Zoltar or Zor-El or Allura or others. But in any event, anyway, that's beside the point. In any event, yes, we have this structure, which again feels similar but also is distinct. And then among this, we have Kara, our main character, who is Helen Slater, and she seems to be walking around. We see, maybe references to six-dimensional geometry, perhaps, or various levels, and also she seems to be talking and greeting everyone. So there's a sense of peace and harmony in this community. And then we see Zoltar, who is played by one and only, the one, the only, Peter O'Toole. And he seems to be creating with this wonderful, it seems like it's a battery powered, I don't know, toy orange lightsaber perhaps, but he's going like shit, and he's trying to create something which he says he thinks it's a tree. And this also gets Zoltar going in terms of his love and admiration for Earth. And this is a great way to introduce the background too, because, oh, Earth, that's where my cousin went, right? Yes, so yes, we understand that Kara, the Helen Slater character, is introduced, and she is almost immediately introduced as the cousin of Kal-El, who is by this time now known to be on Earth. So we have this connection between Krypton and Argo City by virtue of the fact that Kara does make this connection. But we're not quite sure as to the physics of this place. We understand that Zoltar founded this place in some capacity, in some dimension, but we're not sure specifically how or in what way, and how or specifically in what way this is related to Krypton. There might be some background to this, I understand, in terms of the comics heritage of this, but in terms of the film lore, what's being set up here, it's not quite clear. We can make some suppositions, or we can surmise what might have happened. Maybe Argo City, right? I think a good place to maybe posit would be Argo City maybe being one of the cities from Krypton, but it somehow was able to be preserved despite the fact that Krypton from the earlier film, at the very start of Superman the movie, was it met its fate the way it did. So, but Argo City still seems to be intact now. Then the question is, where is Argo City at the moment? Is it caught in some kind of, I don't know, dimensional force field bubble or something? We're not quite sure. But we are also made aware by Zoltar that they are in inner space and everything else is in outer space. And we see this illustrated a little bit later in the film, do we not, when Kara makes her getaway through the, what is it, the binary chute, whatever it's called, and through the little uh, a ball thing. And it goes through, and it seems to, right, she emerges from the water in a lake somewhere on Earth. So the idea, therefore, suggests is that maybe they are super miniaturized, or maybe they're in a dimension that is so microscopic, so as to be maybe within the very belly of Earth somewhere, maybe within their microscopic to the point of being beyond, say, the size of a molecule. Maybe they're in small, so a universe within one's fingertip, in a manner of speaking. So that's maybe the concept of inner space versus outer space, but it's not quite delineated in very specific terms, in terms of physics or astrophysics or anything like that. And there's no specific attempt, I think, at trying to make concrete those links between Krypton, Argo City, Zoltar, Zor-El, Kal-El, Jor-El, Allura, etc. So, and then Kara and Kal-El. So it's not quite clear what they are, but we do understand that there is this connection, and that therefore Kara is of this familial connection with Kala, and thus Superman in on Earth, and she also knows that he is on Earth. So a lot of stuff is going on here, but a lot that is explained but not explained. But again, the point, I think, is not to necessarily provide this type of background, because again, it's trying to set its own identity up for itself, right? It's not trying to be showing Krypton, right? It's trying to show Argo City. And it's not necessarily trying to show it in a way that was much like the beginning of Superman the movie. It's trying to do it in its own path. So how does it do it? Well, it has this idea of the Omega Hedron, this swirling ball thing, which is one of the power sources of Argo City. And of course, we have a little bit of the hijinks of Zoltar. Zoltar is this super intelligent person, an artist and scientist, and Peter O'Toole, and this great getup. I want to say too that everyone has this kind of costume, and I mean, right? I don't know. If I had a choice to shop at the same clothing store as those people who are, living and dressed up in Argos, I'd probably take a pass. It's not necessarily my cup of tea in terms of the fashion sense, but I respect it. But if I had to choose, do I want to dress up like people in Argo City, or I'd probably go somewhere else. But my point is that despite how one might feel about the general dress sense of the Argo City citizens, you cannot deny that Peter O'Toole looks so cool. He's able to rock that Argo City style in that Peter O'Toole way. He decides he's not going to have a type of gown or anything. He's not going to have something that's so tightly fitted. It's very loose fitting type of sweater with the hanging sleeves. It looks very, very cool. He looks rocking. So cool indeed. So Peter O'Toole, what a presence he brings to this. And as Zoltar, he's got that wonder, that curiosity. He wants to leave and wants to go to other frontiers, Saturn or Earth, etc. How is he going to do that? It's not clear, but he was going to do so. There's a sense of adventure, but there's also a sense too of a bit of almost recklessness, because we understand that there's this idea of the Guardians, and they seem to be looking over this power source, the Omega Hedron, which is the spinning orb. It looks like for any of you who knows Hellraiser, it looks like an orb version of the Lament configuration. I don't know, but could you imagine if it was in fact a Lament configuration? Could you imagine if Argo City was actually powered by the Lament configuration? Oh, the possibilities, the possibilities. Oh my goodness! And in fact, Kara is maybe a descendant of the Cenobites. I don't know. Wow, wow. But any event, or Leviathan or something. But anyway, any event, yes, so what was I saying? So Zoltar takes the Omega Hedron. He borrows the Omega Hedron because it seems to be this power source that gives the illusion of life. That's what he says. Not life, but the illusion of life. And so everything that he makes with his orange lightsaber type of twirling wand there, he's able to construct, and then somehow through the power that is emitted from the Omega Hedron as it spins in his hand, is able to maybe give life or give sustenance or some kind of power, which might be later described as magic power when we get to the scenes with Selena and Earth, etc. But therein also lies the conundrum, because he doesn't want to get caught with it. So when Allura, the Mia Farrow character, comes and talks about, oh, I hear that you might be deciding to leave Argo City, and then this brings Kara to a sense of just frolic and play, and she's left to play with creating something which is this kind of large, I guess, butterfly or dragonfly or something. And then as Allura and Zoltar are talking, Zoltar very nonchalantly puts the Omega Hedron down and then kicks it to Kara, I guess, to try to hide it from Allura, I suppose. But it's that's itself a very reckless thing to do already, because that's a very important power source, and he's just putting it under his heel and just kicking it. I don't know if I do that but in any event, Kara takes it, and that gives her the idea of bringing this thing that she's created to life. And it does, and it flies around, and it's this very exciting thing. But it gets carried away because it flies through the glass again. Double glazing. I would have invested in some double glazing if I were the citizens of Argo City. I would have said, hey, um, I don't mean to bother anyone here, but don't you think it's a bad idea to have this sense of protection when all we've got protecting us from the outside anti-gravity is this one sheet of garbage bag plastic? Don't you think that's a bad idea? Don't you think we should go do some double glazing? I could imagine Simon Ward's Zor-El saying, "Oh, we don't need double glazing. We're okay with this single glazed thin piece of plastic. What could possibly go wrong?" So that's probably, I don't know, I'm just imagining it, but in any event, there could be a lot going wrong, right? Especially if you have this giant bug that has suddenly emerged because of someone borrowing the Omega Hedron. And then turning this place into chaos, right? Because it flies through the chute, it flies through, goes out, and then, of course, goes the Omega Hedron, the power source, as Zor-El says. And, of course, Kara flies and is almost going through the thing there, and everyone's on a panic, but they're able to seal the hole in time. But unfortunately, of course, the Omega Hedron, and the bug, too, by the way, there's no one crying for this poor bug. I hope the bug is okay, but the Omega Hedron's out there, so this is a very big deal. This is very, very dangerous, and so of course Zoltar is talking. I must go and get it. He's very much saying what it is he needs to do. He's not doing anything. He's very much saying what it is he's going to do, and as he's standing there saying what it is he needs to do, Kara very, very quietly goes, and she already has the idea. I'm going to do it. And she goes into that little ball, flies up by herself, but much to the protest of Allura and Zor-El and Zoltar, and she flies up through the ball and goes into the binary chute, and poof, that begins the journey of Kara, and of course also the citizens of Argo City without this power source are in the risk of dying. And then, of course, Zoltar announces his own exile to this place, right? The Phantom Zone, and his torture will be for eternity. And so this starts the ball rolling, as it were, in terms of the universe that is Supergirl. Wow, wow, it is zany. It's truly, truly zany. And there are a lot of choices that are just, you either go with it or you don't. And there are things that are maybe unexplained. There are questions that remain unresolved. There are things like what is this place? Why are these people here? You know, that type of fundamental question. But again, going along with the flow and maybe assuming things, we can questions that we might have in our heads, we can always answer for ourselves, and that's part of the fun, I think, of engaging with this film, as well as getting all these great performances. I mean, we've got already Peter O'Toole, Helen Slater, and we'll talk about Helen Slater as well. Her performance is so important when it comes, it's a central performance, obviously, as Kara, and then of course we will see her, Linda Lee, etc. But those, and of course we will see Zoltar again a little bit later in a key sequence. There are other people here: Simon Ward, Mia Farrow too. So Mia Farrow, of course. I mean, speaking of those, Mia Farrow in many famous films, of course. Maybe one of the famous films she was in is the film, what is it, Rosemary's Baby. I don't want to get into too much detail about the film Rosemary's Baby for anyone who hasn't seen the film, but there's a particular moment where her character is carrying a knife, and oh, oh, that part of the music in Rosemary's Baby, and then the knife drops. I would hate to think what Mia Farrow would have done to the Argo City had she been walking around with a knife and she dropped it within Argo City and it punctured maybe the hole or something. It punctured the wall, and again, more things flew out. So watch out, people of Argo City, if you got, you know, um, um, Mia Farrow playing Rosemary with a knife. You don't want her to drop the knife, because if she does it, you might risk puncturing a hole in Argo City's walls or infrastructure or whatever. But okay. And also too, I should say that wouldn't it have been cool if Kara and Zoltar together would have been flying into the chute from inner space into outer space? Because as we know, somehow, again, I'm not sure exactly how, but somehow that flight to Earth creates Supergirl, and she's already dressed up in the Supergirl outfit, which is the S and the S insignia and the blue and the red. We had a little bit of an explanation in Superman the movie why that was the case for Kal-El. We don't get that explanation at all here for Supergirl, and we also don't get an explanation necessarily why she has her superpowers. We can assume, maybe much like the people of Krypton, again, being exposed to the yellow sun. This gives her we can assume that, but we're never given that explanation. All we know is that she has the same powers as Superman. But we can therefore assume that anyone who is from Argo City who took the same travel plans as Kara would have undergone the same transformation. In other words, that same person would have become super. So could you imagine not just Kara, but also Peter O'Toole? Could you imagine if they'd gone together? Maybe they'd formed a team. They go, okay, we'll form a team. We'll try to find the Omega Hedron together. They go and they arrive on Earth, and you have these moments of not, you have Helen Slater flying in the ballet sequence, and she's enjoying it, and the beautiful, beautiful music, and also Peter O'Toole. Could you imagine him in the Peter O'Toole blue and red S with the cape? Wow. I guess what was it? Peter O'Toole. So Super Tool. I don't know. Super O'Toole. I don't know. But could you imagine that? And he too is flying and he's enjoying life. And you hear the lovely Jerry Goldsmith music, and then he's picking up like dead flowers and he's using his X-ray, his vision to turn them into bring them to life. And that would have been so pleasant. That would have been so cool. But anyway, and then they have to go to the school, and she's pretending to be Linda Lee, and maybe he's pretending, I don't know, to be some teacher. I don't know. Oh gosh, but let me call it. He changes his hair color too in order to protect his identity. So Linda Lee, of course, has the brown hair. Whereas Kara has the blonde hair. So maybe Peter O'Toole, same thing. Peter O'Toole, Zoltar has the blondish hair, so maybe he can turn his hair, I don't know, maybe he can turn it like red. But anyway, the possibilities are endless. That would have been really cool. I could, if there would have been a film with Peter O'Toole dressed up in the Superman outfit. Wow, wow, that would have been really amazing. And to see him do the ballet sequence but anyway, let's see. So, let me go to the live chat, and we will go from there. Let's see. So, here we go. Sorry about this. How are we doing? Okay. Let's see. Zyrother says, I like the opening title design. Yes, me too. And Jason, you continue. Not the last time that Goldsmith, that's the score for the off-brand version of the film. I think he does a really good job. Oh, yes, Jason mentions Williams Jurassic Park, Goldsmith Congo, Williams Indiana Jones, Goldsmith King Solomon's Mine, the mines. This could go on. Zyrother says, it's proud to be part of the same universe. And does not trample upon other things. I think that's a really important point. I agree. I think it really respects the other films, but also tries to forge its own path. Um, uh, right, with the whole thing about what do you call it? Um, what is it? You know. Lucy Lane and Jimmy Olsen, and in fact, there's a little bit of the when Selena drives away in Nigel's whatever in the car when she starts the car with the Omega Hedron, which is already landed in that little cup of whatever soup or something that's on the head of that tiger thing. Um, and you hear a little bit of the radio, and the radio news says something about Superman is off on a flight to a distant galaxy on some peace mission or something. It's almost like the setup for the film Superman Returns, in a manner of speaking. But in any event, yes, we understand that Superman is part of this universe. We see a poster in Lucy Lane's dorm. Of course, Lucy Lane and her relationship with Lois and her knowledge of Metropolis and the Daily Planet, and so all these connections. But it does feel like its own thing. It's in a different place. It's not in Metropolis. In this place, what's the place called? Midvale, I think it's called. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And it has more to do with like magic and sorcery and witchcraft and all this stuff. So, but again, we'll get to that a little bit later as we get to this through this. So, um, let's see here. Cooper Glover is here. Nice to see you. Jerrison is here. It's nice to see you. Um, Cooper Glover says, I thought this film was pretty awful. Trying not, no offense taken. I just couldn't wait until it was over. And a lot of it doesn't make any sense. I wonder if the suits at the studios really messed up the soup of the script. I think it was just milking the franchise. FJ is here. Hello. You say, I haven't seen this in years. Let's see. As Cooper Glover says, that dimension looks like tie-dye togas. Yes, that's a good way of describing it, I think. Jerson says, Academy Award nominee Peter O'Toole. Cooper Glover says, I wonder why Linda Lee has brunette hair and Supergirl has blonde hair. Clark Kent and Superman have the same hair. Yeah. So it's that's right. It's okay to ask questions. There are so many questions, Cooper Glover. Indeed, I too have a lot of questions about it. But again, it's just kind of go like for instance, you know, how does Supergirl like transform into Supergirl that way? She's just able to like walk by a tree and then see suddenly Linda Lee. How does she? Where did the clothes come from? You know what I mean? So it doesn't quite make sense. Maybe she really sped. When she walked by the tree, she was able then to like fast walk to the locker room of the school and was able to find an extra school uniform and put it back on before she walked to the other side of the tree. I don't know, but yeah, she's able to transform herself through hair color and school uniform, and then she's able to transform back and forth without any difficulty at all. But I suppose that's part also of the Superman films as well, especially the opening of Superman 2. the Richard Lester version of Superman 2, for instance. Remember when he's running, Clark Kent is in an alleyway and he suddenly turns into Superman. You don't see where his clothes go, so it's the same thing. They're able to change very much. It's like that. Well, anyway, they have some kind of maybe super locker somewhere. I'm not sure. Yes, Cooper Clever says, what is the reason for the castle in the mountain at the end? Well, the reason for the castle in the mountain is, of course, Selena. Right? Selena is power hungry, and so what else would she do except create a mountain with a castle on top of it, right? Oh, Krakos is here. Hello. Yes. Zyrother says the mountain is so random, but it does look cool. I love how, like, I love the conversation between Lucy and Jimmy. Like, Lucy, what? Lucy says, "What's going on?" Oh, hey, look, there's a mountain in the middle. It's like, oh wow, there's a mountain. What is on top of it? It looks like a fortress. Oh, yeah. Anyway, yes. Very very exciting stuff. But in any event, yes. Uh, oh yes, Jerison, yes, a Tintin mug, yes, or Tintin, yes. Thank you so much. That Cooper says maybe they put their clothes in another dimension. Maybe it's quite possible. Again, I don't know how this interdimensional space stuff works, but apparently it has a lot of gusto, as we see evidenced in a lot of scenes here in Supergirl. But speaking of Supergirl, let's go back to the film, and we have now the scenes on Earth already. So we have this idea of now the quest for the Omega Hedron, which is somewhere on Earth, somewhere, and Kara has her little uh, uh, like sparkle stone bracelet that is able to be a detector whenever she's close. So she's trying to find the Omega Hedron, flying through, enjoying her time as well. This is also in many ways, a type of coming of age film for Kara, and we see this already in terms of her liberation, feeling free when she's flying, which is a lovely scene. I think it's a really lovely scene, and it shows. It's a very simple scene. It's not like we see we'll see it a little bit later in terms of the grand spectacle of the flight, but I loved it. It's very much in terms of the real terms of the flight apparatus. We can understand that as this Helen Slater with wires, and she's able to fly via the wires that are carrying her off the ground, etc. So she's miming this, or she's acting this, but it's a beautiful performance, and it reminds me too, or it's an example of I think how wonderfully grounded Helen Slater's performance is. I mean, she's like she is a young woman, and maybe she's seen as someone who is maybe a young girl or teenage girl, somewhat precocious even at the very start in Argo City, and then she learns certain things. She has certain experiences, flight, being on her own, but she is also trying. She's also she's very much strong in terms of the mission that she understands that she must be on, and she is also not afraid, and she doesn't give up, and it's shown in a lot of ways. And I think that has a sense of, it might be seen as kind of naivete. For instance, when she's stuck in the Phantom Zone and she sees Zoltar there, and Zoltar is all but like abandon all hope of being able to escape. And then Kara, she says, "You're right. You're absolutely right. Why should we try to risk our lives because of these things that are happening?" This is her point. She is strong. Maybe she's seen as a little bit too naive because she doesn't realize the extent of the danger that their attempt to escape the Phantom Zone really poses. Zoltar does. And so that might be seen as a sense of naivete on her part, but it's something that does convince him to go along with her plan. And so she does, and she does escape, right? So through whatever the quantum vortex, that's red swirling, whatever it is. It's like, it reminds me of, do they still have the drink in the U.S. which is called Hawaiian Punch? That drink, Hawaiian Punch, that fruit punch drink. That swirling thing reminds you of, like, if you'd have a bowl of Hawaiian Punch and you turned, you kind of swirled it and turned it into a little kind of cyclone there. That reminds me of what the Zoltar and Kara are trying to escape from. Oh my goodness! And he falls into the Hawaiian Punch. Zoltar, don't go into the Hawaiian Punch. Save me a cup or something. But what was I saying? What was I talking? Oh yeah, so Kara does have this, strength of will that does get her through, I think, a lot of things. But this is again also a coming of age story. She has these feelings of maybe blossoming romance and attraction, with, of course, the Hart Bachner character, Ethan. 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 Yeah, so we have that relationship, which is a really, really wow. What are the Ethan component of this film is another really quirky aspect. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As then I'll talk about Selena and Nigel and Bianca and all this. But again, this is her story, and we see that, and we also see her confronting some pretty dangerous elements. For instance, when she first lands in the town at night, and she's confronted by those truckers who are essentially trying to, I guess, assault her, physically and sexually assault her, or attempt to anyway, which is a very frightening and quite unpleasant circumstance. But she's able to handle herself very well, and she's very honest. Why are you doing this? That sort of honesty, which is very triumphant, and it has a sense of doesn't maybe I don't know if it's I mean, it does have a sense of justice, that's for sure, but it's not necessarily that she is fighting for justice per se, but she is really almost fighting in the name of, say, almost in a sense, kind of moral decency, which is based upon her own, say, character. She knows what is right and what is not right. And so, what is being attempted by these two people is obviously not right. So, she is able to defend herself, and defend herself she does, with that sense of, say, Supergirl prowess. So in any event, that's I think, another important aspect of this film, which is that this is Kara's story, and also we see that too when she's introduced to the school, and the sort of school hijinks, meeting Lucy Danvers, the whole thing with the uh, uh, what's her what's in is it the bullies, and you know getting acquainted with school life, and we get a little bit of it. We don't get a lot of it. We get a little bit of it. So this is also seeing how she is very much, the phrase is a fish out of water story, but she's also trying to be part of the group, and I think that comes through in terms of her relationship with Lucy Lay. It's not the most well developed relationship in the history of movie character relationships, that's for sure, but it does have its sense of charm, and they do have a mutual connection, of course, in terms of Lois Lane and Clark Kent, and Metropolis, etc., and then, of course, the Superman poster, and then Jimmy Olsen, of course. It's not the most well-rounded relationship that's ever been developed, in terms of movie character relationships. I do grant you that, but uh, there is a certain way in which it does further enforce the idea that this is a coming-of-age story for Kara, and in that way, I think that's also a great strength of this, and that's something where we root for her. And it's a coming-of-age story, but it's done in a way that it's not, in my opinion anyway, it doesn't feel, say, overgrating or irritating or anything like that, but we are very much part of that story, and I think it does so because it has this interesting pace to it. I mean, that's another thing that's very interesting about this film. The Omega Hedron is this power source, and apparently, without this power source, Argo City will wither and die very soon. But she seems to be taking her time. She's going to school. She's playing field hockey, and she's, if she was looking for the Omega Hedron in such a hurry, I would think that she wouldn't necessarily have to go to school. She could just find the Omega Hedron on her own, and that would be that. But oh well. Maybe there was more time to find the Omega Hedron. Again, that divide between outer space and inner space, that's probably the physics or the astrophysics of this. But in any event, yes, there we go. There we go. So anyway, let's go to the chat, and then after that, we will talk about the other part of this, which is Selena and Bianca and Nigel and Hart Bachner, the landscape artist, Ethan. Okay, Jonathan is here. Hello, it's nice to see you. Um, Cooper Glover continues, maybe. Oh, Zyrother says heat vision that makes plants grow, apparently. Yes, I guess so. Maybe it's, because plants rely on, say, the sun, right, in terms of replenishment and what is it, the properties of photosynthesis, etc. So I would imagine that the heat applied from the heat vision was somehow able to cause the flower to grow. I mean, I could see that. Zarother says the movie fails to explain anything, so I don't blame anyone for being confused. Yes, it doesn't explain much, that's for sure. Let's see. Like where does Nigel get that suit? It's a leisure suit. Where does he get that? Like that's a question that I'd like to have answered. Where did Nigel buy that suit? Where did he get the Burundi wand? What is the Burundi wand? If you hey Nigel, what's that? Oh, it's the Burundi wand. Oh, it's the Burundi wand, Nigel. Oh, could you tell me what it is? And he answers like what he says in the movie: pure, unadulterated evil. Oh, so the Burundi wand is pure, unadulterated evil. Oh, thanks for answering my question. Oh, okay. So anyway, yeah. So that's yeah. It's so many questions you have. You just as I say, you can go with the flow or not, and there's no right or wrong answer. If you don't want to go with the flow, that's perfectly fine. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. But anyway, it's a fascinating thing, absolutely fascinating. But let's see. Zyrothers continues. Helen Slater was 19 or 20 years at the time, so she was perfect age for the character. And also, Cooper Clever says Jimmy Olsen looks much older for Lois Lane's sister. Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I think I'm not sure how old Lucy Lane is. I'm not sure how old Jimmy Olsen is, but it's a very, yeah, that's very interesting. Anyway, of course, it's meant to be the opportunity to bring a character from the Superman films to this film with Supergirl, that being Jimmy Olsen. So I understand that. Still, it's kind of interesting, right? They have their date, I guess, with the group at what is it, the Popeyes, and he has the chicken and the fries go to Eddie. I think what does Eddie get? And they don't wear shirts. So I guess people, right? People don't wear shirts. Like what is this? But anyway, and then they go and they have their magic kiss. Of course, there's a lot of magic kissing in Supergirl here, or right, because we've seen a lot of magic kisses in the world of Superman, in particular Superman 2. But here we have a number of magic kisses, one could say. First off being, of course, the kiss between Ethan and Supergirl, and they kiss, and it's like, Linda, so that has that air of magic and romance about it. But there's also the kiss between Jimmy Olsen and Lucy after the battle at top of the mountain, and Selena and Bianca have been defeated in terms of the mirror, and everything disappears, and then they're kissing, and then they go back to the ground, right? And that was some kiss. That was Lucy says. So it was like Jimmy Olsen has his own magical kiss powers. Apparently, who'd have thought, right? You think that maybe it would be only Clark Kent or Kal-El who has the magical kiss powers, but no. Jimmy Olsen seems to be trying to make his own stake here in terms of the magic kiss department goes. So good for Jimmy. We'll see what happens. But and I'm not sure what the details are of this relationship. What's going to happen? What's up with this? But anyway, it's the idea that we're bringing a character from the Superman films into this world. So there's that. So let's see. Omesh is here. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, Horrible Show Tanner is here. It's nice to see you. Thank you. I'm gonna check this out. Nice. We'll see you later, my friend. Thank you. Cooper Glover says, Daisuke, Buñuel films don't make sense, but they work for me. Again, same thing, right? Film can make sense or not make sense. Do they work for you? Do they not work for you? Again, the choice is yours, my dear friend, for any film, Supergirl or otherwise. Omesh says, I have a deep fondness for this film. The first flight scene is a thing of beauty, so graceful. Jason continues, both good art films and bad mainstream films don't explain anything. Zyrother says they all meet at Popeyes. Yes, and I love too when Linda Lee is walking down the street and Lucy sees Linda Lee. Linda has that pose. She has the thing where she's got one arm behind her and she's got it like this. I don't know if you can see. She's got it like that. She's walking. Do you know who else who did that in the Superman? Zod. Zod had that thing when they're on the moon in Superman 2. Remember, he had his arm behind him and it was in under his armpit there. So Linda Lee has the same arm gesture as General Zod. Wow, wow, who'd have thunk it, right? Uh, so we have yet more of these. I'm not sure if it was meant to that was on purpose or not, but it's a very interesting detail. What is the connection between General Zod and Linda Lee? My goodness. It reminds me too. Whenever I hear the name Linda Lee, I'm reminded of Linda Lee and Bruce Lee. And so sometimes I wonder, what if the Hart Bochner character, Ethan, was played not by Hart Bochner, but it was played by Bruce Lee. Of course, I know Bruce Lee, this was or 1984, so this is or after the untimely passing of Bruce Lee, but always one can imagine what might have happened had this occurred. And so could you imagine those scenes in the amusement park funhouse, Bruce Lee playing Ethan, or maybe after Ethan has drunk the beer, right, with the magic potion, the love potion. I love the way he drinks. By the way, he drinks it right, and he so drinks it down. He's already under the spell of the spider. Take the spider off its web. Put him in 2 shells of a nut. Put the nut in oil, into which goes some of the web, and then take with a silver spoon, put 2 drops of oil into some water, and then whoever drinks the water will fall in love with the first person he sees, so long as the spider remains in the shell, or one day passes, whichever comes first, or something like that. That's the spell. And so Ethan drinks some of this potion in the form of the beer that's offered to him by Selena. Wet your whistle, yes, and so. But he escapes, of course, and he's, of course, on this drowsy thing in the middle of the town and the attack of the magical tractor thing. Could you imagine if that was played by Bruce Lee? Could you imagine if Ethan was played by Bruce Lee? Hart Bochner's like, oh, I can't see. But Bruce Lee, Ethan, he'd be, I'm having none of this. You'd have just taken that tractor, be like, just giving it, oh gosh, I hate this tractor. Just wouldn't have got struck. You just ripped it to shreds or something. Because right, it's just this powerhouse of a figure of energy and a spirited confrontation. He would never let this magical tractor get him down. He would always find a way, right? Be like water, right? Jeet Kune Do for anyone. But anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, Ethan, of course, was played by the one, the only Hart Bochner, sometimes shirtless Hart Bochner. It also reminds me, too, of the great performance that Hart Bochner gave in the film Die Hard. And so, anyway, so all these connections coming together. So many things. But anyway, what was I saying? Yes, so Scott Alquist, realtor, the Burwald Group, BHHS is here, and you say, hi, Daisuke, love this film, watched it over and over as a kid. Me too. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I felt that I was like that as well. Zyrother says, so many names with L's in this universe. Yes. Linda Lee, Lucy Lane. Yes. Cooper Clever says, I don't think kids are as critical and looking for logic when they usually watch films as opposed to adults, maybe. Omesh says, now that I think of it, the workshop foreman at my first job was a German man who also walked around like you described General Zod. I'm not sure. That's yeah, it's interesting. Cooper Clever says, Daisuke, you should direct the remake of Supergirl. It will be interesting. I don't know. I'm not that good of an artist, so in any event, I am, yes. So let us now continue, which is we now have to go to another aspect of this film, and I hinted at it a little bit. That is Faye Dunaway. as Selena, and she has a number of names. I forget. I can't remember offhand what they were. She says them when Supergirl comes and confronts them for the first time in the amusement park. Uh, something something of something of Endor. She mentions Endor, which is right. It reminds me automatically of Return of the Jedi. So one can think maybe or imagine the possibility maybe Selena has something to do with Ewoks. I'm not sure, but in any event, Selena is the main antagonist of the film, played by Faye Dunaway with such venom and power and force. And she wants what it is she wants, which is she wants everyone to love her. She wants to take over the world in some manner. Wants to use her at the time that we meet her. It's kind of fledgling powers of sorcery and witchcraft and magic. She wants to that she seems to be learning from Nigel and his his type of almost aggressive affront of trying to express his affection towards Selena. I suppose he seems always to be very angry, Nigel, which is I think one of the great things about the Peter Cook performance. He's just so offbeat. And then of course while they're having their picnic, the Omega Hedron falls into the cup of whatever that is, that orange goo, soup or pate or whatever, which is atop the tiger's head there. Talk about, right? But in any event, they're on both sides. Who should happen upon the Omega Hedron first? Could you imagine it had it been Nigel? The whole story, the trajectory of Supergirl would have been completely different. But lo and behold, who gets it first but Selena? And therein lies the whole thing here, because the Omega Hedron is powerful. I mean, how do we know it's powerful? It spins in her hands, so that's why it's so powerful. And it makes noises and it glows, and it can start cars without keys, and it drives off. And so she realizes, she intuitively understands, Selena does, that this is the source. This is the means by which she's able to not just obtain power, but also to expand her own influence and her own powers herself. And so she drops Nigel, goes back to her house. And how do we know it's a house? Because there's the bedroom over there, right, according to her. And Bianca is there. I'm sorry, not Bianca. Bianca. So that's Bianca, the Brenda Vaccaro characters. That's a great combination here. So it reminds me too, again, it's very similar, but also standing on its own. It's very similar in tone. There's a type of comedy team routine uh, uh, appeal that's going on between Faye Dunaway and Peter Cook, and also Faye Dunaway and Brenda Vaccaro, and also, right, the three of them. So it does have that type of comic duo or comic trio dynamic, which is not dissimilar from, say, the trio dynamic of, let's say, Miss Tessmacher and Otis and Lex Luthor from the first two Superman films. So it has that, but it's also its own thing, which is what I really like and enjoy. I like Bianca. She talks back to Selena in many ways, and she's in many ways a type of Greek chorus. In terms of, she says things that make perfect sense. She says, "Why don't you just give this up? Why don't you just try something else?" That sort of thing. And so I like that. I like that aspect of Bianca's character, but that's very much key, because as the film progresses, the character Celine just grows so outlandish and just over the top, and we need that counter, which I think operates really, really nicely. And then the foil that is Peter Cook's Nigel, and again, with the magic that creates these marks on his face, or things like that, or the making fun of his suit, or the Burundi wand, and also his connection with the school and the math teacher and the computer, which is also maybe a subtle connection, on purpose or not, I'm not sure, to Superman 3 and the power of computers, according to Robert Vaughn's Ross Webster there. But what was I saying? But in any event, yes, we have Selena and the establishment of Selena. And it seems that her plan is, again, just for domination, and also to satiate her urges in terms of maybe attraction, sexual attraction, and therein lies and also jealousy. A lot of her motivations here come from this jealousy. Again, she is fixated on this character of Ethan, which almost quite random because if you recall, when she first sees Ethan, it's Brenda Vaccaro's Bianca who says, "Oh, I think I'm in love," and they see Ethan with his shirt off cutting a branch. And Selena's in the back seat there, and she says, "Oh, he's cute," but she doesn't at that point show any type of strong attraction to me. It's only after the Omegahedron responds in that way that she intuits this to mean that maybe this is a sign for her to see Ethan as a mate, her prince, as it were, as she is the supreme ruler of whatever empire she is envisioning at that point. So I think that is the impetus for her wanting Ethan in that way. And it could transform perhaps into a type of maybe sexual desire or attraction, who knows? But it started out basically with a lack of attraction, which is an interesting thing. So maybe that's an indication of Selena being a character that is maybe believing in fate, believing in, she's obviously looking for some kind of sign. She's looking, right, love, hate, love, hate, love. I will make everybody love me. Right. So she's looking in some kind of card reading. And so maybe she believes in that as well. And so she looks at this as a sign. And so in that way, that makes sense. But it's very much uh, a type of serendipity in terms of how the plot unfolds. And the fact that her desire to essentially want to control Ethan and not being able to do so because of Linda Lee and the happenstance involving the love potion and then the introduction and the entrance of Supergirl, etc., seemingly thwarting Selena's plans, that causes the plot to unravel the way it does. So it's not coming about because of any concrete plan to say, I don't know, uh, uh, destroy the coastline of a major part of the country or something like that, but rather it's coming out of a sense of almost a random established jealousy, and so it may seem quite maybe it's not that epic type of plot that we might have seen in, say, Superman or Superman 2, for example, or even Superman 3 for that matter, but it does have epic proportions because of the way in which the magic and sorcery is involved, and we'll get to that as well in a moment, because that's also one of the key points of this film, Supergirl. It has a lot to do with magic and that type of mysticism and sorcery and witchcraft and spells and the like. So, but we'll get to that momentarily. But first, let's go to the chat. Excuse me here. Maybe my stomach is grumbling a little bit here and there. I haven't had breakfast yet, but I'll have breakfast after this is over. But I'll try to. There we go. Let's see. Zyrother says, I thought Dunaway was fun to watch, over the top and exaggerated. Yes. She's really great. Although I like the moments where she's also very kind of down to earth. She's like when she's trying to pull out that little casing from the little hideaway place there, and they realize that the lead casing for the Omegahedron, they realize it's growing, and it's stuck, and she said, "This is not my day," and she's trying to pull it out, and they realize it's growing, or she's trying to figure out how the magic mirror works and doesn't quite work, and it's so she's trying her best, and she's not always succeeding. I like those moments of this trial and error type of sorcery, which is very human, and it humanizes her in this interesting way. And I think that makes that relationship between her and Bianca, I think, all the more. It has a sense of she is very much the antagonist. Don't get me wrong, but there's a way in which that type of repartee works very well, and it's not done in a showy, over the top manner, but it's done in a way that's very much playing off their camaraderie, which I think works very well. That being Bianca and Selena, of course. Yeah. Mm. Let's see. Oh, Gerald is here. It's nice to see you. And you say this is more feels movie than Superman, which is a lot of action based. Although there's some pretty interesting action scenes in this film too, I should say. But I understand what your point is. Thank you. Yeah. Omesh says Supergirl is more of a fairy tale. Excuse me. Elements of Snow White, who is the fairest of us all. Yes, that's also a good point too. Does have a fairy tale aspect to it, which I think does explain the Magic Mountain and the fortress atop the Magic Mountain at the very climax of the film. And the power of shadow and this whole, it's like this is a film that's almost like it's a fairy tale. It's almost too like what's that film, Conan the Destroyer. Does anyone know that film? Conan. This feels very much like Conan the Destroyer, especially when you get to the power of shadow stuff at the very end with this monster, which looks very much like um, Conan the Destroyer stuff. And there's also a connection between Conan the Destroyer and the world of Superman. Of course, if you know, Conan the Destroyer features Sarah Douglas, right, who played none other than Ursa, right, who was with Zod there and Non. But in any event, yes, it feels like a fairy tale. It feels like Superman meets Conan the Destroyer. With Faye Dunaway too, maybe it has a little bit of that feel of Mommy Dearest as well, and the like. So it was very fascinating mix of various tones and blends, that's for sure. As Cooper Glover says, the cops at the end make me think of fascist soldiers. Yes, it's meant to evoke that, I think, because it's meant to say this type of authoritarian system that has been imposed because of the rule of Selena there. They are the authoritarian police guard. I think your observation there is spot on. Yeah. Zyrother says, I wish we saw more of that partially invisible monster. It looks really cool. Yeah, it is an interesting concept, right? We see the invisible monster bit when it first attacks Linda Lee and then Supergirl. And I love and then, the storm and everything, and it's invisible. We hear the wind, and of course, this is after Linda Lee's about to kiss herself in the mirror, and then she's interrupted by this monster, this invisible monster. And how does she attack the monster? She doesn't attack using any superpowers that she has. She goes and she takes a light pole, rips it off, flies into the lightning sky, and then the lightning hits the pole and it breaks the glass, and she goes back and returns to the ground and zaps the monster with this lightning beam. Very cool stuff. I don't quite know how or why that works that way. But when I saw it as a kid, I thought it was really cool. I look at it now, it's like, okay, all right. Why would that work that way? I don't quite know how. But again, all's fair in terms of magic, the world of magic, I suppose. And it does thwart the invisible monster, at least for the time being. Now, my assumption is that is this the same monster that we see at the very end? Again, I'm not sure. I always, when I was a kid, I assumed it was the same monster, but again, I can't be sure. It does have the same sound, growl, though. But that doesn't mean it's the same monster. Maybe it's the same type of monster, the same, what is it, genus or species, but different monster itself. Who knows? But there could have been many different power of shadows in the wings there, perhaps. I don't know, or powers of shadow, I should say. But in any event, yes. Dan is here. It's nice to see you, Dan. Gerald says, I think Superman is someone we strive to be like, where Supergirl portrayed by Helen Slater feels like one of us. Oh, that's an interesting way of describing it. That's really interesting. I like that. Interesting. Very nice. Let's see here. Skipping. Let's see. Scrolling down here. Okay. Zareth is bummer for that guy's car, though. Zareth says, I thought it was the same kind of monster, just more powerful. Yeah, it's Kubrick Lovers continues. I don't like the production design. It looks sort of cool, but still doesn't make any sense to me in any way. Omesh says, I love the practical effects in that invisible monster sequence. I think there's a lot of miniature effects as well, if I'm not mistaken. There's some miniature effects as well, and I think miniature effects and matte paintings for Argo City, for that matter. It's a very interesting sequence. It adds a sense of menace, of course, because of the storm sequence and the like. So I thought it's done really well as well. It's not meant to be the showstopper of the film, right? Because the showstopper is, of course, the climax at the very end. But it's meant, I think, to be a nice teaser, and it does show. Again, it doesn't. I admit it makes no sense to me why Supergirl takes the pole and uses the lightning the way she does as a lightning rod. But hey, heck, it does show in many ways that she is able to withstand this attack in a way that's creative. So good for her. Excellent. I'm glad she was able to stop this threat. Live on to fight another day, as it were. Yes, Cooper Glover says Derek Meddings was the miniature guys. Yes, yes. Zara says yes, Derek Meddings, exactly. So let's continue on. So, of course, we have the continuing threat of Selena, and it's now centered on Ethan. So, in many ways, Ethan is one of the most crucial characters of this film. Now, does that mean that one has to 100% totally be sympathetic towards the character of Ethan? Not necessarily. I mean, Ethan, for me, is a very peculiar character. There are times when I find his role to be very perplexing in terms of the way in which the love potion takes hold of him, and he's just constantly talking in poetic tongue, and he's trying to express his love for Linda Lee, etc. Very perplexing stuff. I get it, and he's very much in many ways a type of character where things are done to him. Although there are moments where he is proactively, for instance, at the very end when he closes the lid on the Omega Hedron there, foils the powers of Selena, but for a second perhaps, but still enough time for Supergirl to confront Selena, as Peter Cook's Nigel says in the Wings there, confront her with it. It's the only way. In a line that also, you think about it, what is he talking about? But any event, anyway, it's again part of the film. It's part of the fancy. You go along with it or you don't. But that's part of, I think, the cult status charm of this film, which is there are a lot of lines that make absolutely no sense, and a lot of characters that in many ways don't make a lot of sense. And I think Ethan falls within that category, and but that's again part of the charm. Ethan has this kind of philosophy where he's this landscape artist. He didn't ask to drink this love potion. It was actually foisted upon him, right? He says at the before he drinks the thing, he says that to Celine, he says, I'm currently single, but I don't like to talk about my private. I just like to do my work and go home. That's the life ethic. That's the philosophy of Ethan. And you got to respect that. I do. And it's not his fault that he drank the potion that turned his life upside down. I mean, right? He didn't ask for this. So, but right. And I like the bit too at the end where he, after everything has happened and Selena and Bianca are defeated, he takes the Omega Hedron and he hands it over to Supergirl in this little gesture. And I love that gesture because he understands that this was her mission, and she's completed now. She has to go, and he says, I understand. I know. But there was also this understanding that maybe this was there were some feelings that he had for Linda that were lingering on. Maybe they are the after effects of the love potion, or maybe they are real. Who knows? I'm not sure. But the point is that Ethan is a very peculiar character, but he wasn't always like this, right? Because from the very start, he says he's just a private guy, and he just wants to do his own thing. It's not his fault that things happen the way they did, but they did. So it's a very peculiar role. I get it. And oftentimes it's quite perplexing, but I don't look at it as being Ethan's fault in the universe of the film per se. But things happen to him that are beyond his control. I love his suits, by the way, when he is under the full control of Selena towards the final act of the film there. And again, there's the magic kiss, and suddenly being hit in the head with a coconut that comes from out of nowhere, and the whole thing with the coconut, and they being able to be revived from the essence of the coconut, and the like. And who thinks of talk about the magic? Talk about, I mean, gosh, I wonder what that spell was what was the thinking process of Selena to think, how am I going to subdue Ethan? Oh, I know. I'll use a spell where I will render him unconscious. How shall I do that? Oh, let me summon a coconut from the sky, and it'll hit him right in the head. That's the ticket. So yeah, so it's right, really, really uh, odd choices, but well, so that's the Ethan character. But he is central because it is basically over him, and that the struggle between Selena and Supergirl or Linda Lee takes place, and that is the drive for Selena's jealousy and rage that just grows and grows and grows as the Omega Hedron power grows and grows and grows within her, and she's able to control it. And then also the Burundi one, to don't forget to the Burundi one again. The Burundi one, I think, deserves its own spin-off film. I mean, I know Supergirl is in many ways a spin-off film, but could you imagine a spin-off film focusing on the Burundi wand? What is the Burundi wand? I mean, it has that thing where, I wish I had. Here's my handkerchief. Pretend it's the Burundi wand, right? What? Oh, again. Oh gosh. Hey, I have a question. Oh, yes. Daisuke, what's your question? Oh, what's the Burundi wand? What's the Burundi wand? And he's, oh, it's pure, unadulterated evil. Oh, that explains it. Thank you very much. And he holds up the Burundi wand, and let's pretend it's the Burundi. And I love that, da, 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 and then the ball is rolling here on this hand, and the Burundi wand's on the other hand. And they bring Ethan using the magic powers chained to the bed. And you've got then Selena, kissing Nigel, and suddenly taking the Burundi wand from Nigel. And we see that, talk about adding, right, that sort of insult to injury. Not only is he reduced to this type of worn down state, he's even got the lipstick. I mean, she won't even remove the lipstick from his lips. My goodness. But in any event, yes, so the Burundi wand and Omega Hedron, talk about a power combo from hell. Wow. So fantastic stuff. And therein lies again the final piece of the puzzle of Selena's quest for power. She's on her way. But yes. And one of those pieces for the quest of power is to get rid of Supergirl. And how does she do it? Well, she seems to be able to construct her own Phantom Zone mirror. So we saw this Phantom Zone mirror thing from Superman the movie with the three criminal elements, right? Zod, Non, and Ursa. And they were in the Phantom Zone. Now, again, in the cinematic terms, at least when we saw it in Superman and Superman 2, the idea was perhaps the Phantom Zone. I'm not sure if the Phantom Zone was being in that little flip mirror, that's the Phantom Zone or not. Here in Supergirl, the idea is that the mirror itself is not the Phantom Zone, but the mirror is the transportation device by which someone is taken to the Phantom Zone. And we see this world of the Phantom Zone, which is this barren wasteland, stormy place, which seems to be somehow in the middle of nowhere, although it took Supergirl almost no time at all to get from the fortress to the Phantom Zone, apparently, with this flip mirror thing. And in any event, so that's the concept of the Phantom Zone here within the role of Supergirl. So it's very interesting. And then I think, actually, this is also one of the great strengths of the film, which is the Phantom Zone sequence. It's one of my favorite sequences of the film, in fact, for a number of reasons. So first of all, we see the world and its barren wasteland and her power. She's bereft of her power. She can't fly. She tries to break the stone, which is a reminder of what she did earlier in the film, but she can't. And she's so struggling to the point where she causes her palms to bleed, which is a very unpleasant scene, very, very disturbing. When I was a kid seeing that, it really shocked me to see the blood trickle down from her palm that way. And then she gets caught in the mud, the quicksand or something, or the pool of mud or sludge or whatever it is, and she faints. And then we see a mysterious figure, rescue her, take her somewhere in this barren, empty, desolate place. And we see it's none other than Zoltar. And Zoltar, what does he say? Squirt. And he's got this squirt thing. It's so weird. So weird. And it seems like Zoltar, we don't know how long he's been here, but he says he's been here forever. So we can imagine he's been here for such a long time. And he looks forlorn. He looks out of it and wasted and just totally, totally lost. But and he doesn't seem like the same confident Zoltar that we met at the start of the film. He seems very much a defeated, broken Zoltar. And therein lies the conversation between him and Kara's trying to convince him to find a way out, to fight. And ultimately, she does able to convince him to get the spirit, to sum up the drive to try, right? So, but that's one aspect which I think is really great. Is I do like the Zoltar character, and again, I mentioned Peter O'Toole. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. This performance here. Squirt. I just like squirt. Do you want to squirt? Or the way he looks and just the way he says the dialogue, and of course the transformation of Zoltar as a type of Obi-Wan Kenobi figure. All right, at the very end, when Kara is stuck in the claws of the power shadow, and Selena's doing the thing with, and she's just stretching and crackling, and you hear, I can't, and you hear the Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? You can, on girl. You know, he could have said, right, use the Force, Kara. Let go, Kara. Kara, trust me. Right, so he could have, but anyway, so she flies out and does the final with the thing there. But anyway, we'll get to that later. But now the Phantom Zone. So that's that aspect of the film. Of course, the Phantom Zone has its dangers, as I mentioned, with the Hawaiian Punch cyclone, the quantum vortex, and the like. But that's one of the aspects that I like about the Phantom Zone sequence. Another aspect which I like about the Phantom Zone sequence is it really shows the gravity of the situation when we have a character that, up to now, our main character of Supergirl, Kara, or Linda Lee, up to now, seemingly she has been pretty, I mean, there have been struggles, there have been confrontations, but she's been pretty much able to handle things. There hasn't been anything that has been so much of an overbearing threat to her or risk to her. Not so much. I mean, there have been challenges, of course, but nothing that she has not been able to overcome until now. When she gets to the Phantom Zone, this is her lowest point in the film. This is her lowest point, and there is something about the trajectory of the hero's arc, the character hero's arc of a film, that we see the highs, we also see the lows, and the indication of the lows of a hero's character journey or the character arc is so important because the lows of the character arc make the final high or the final summit of the climax all the more satisfying. And so if we see a character who is really rock bottom, quite really rock bottom, but we see her do her best, even in these quite terrible and horrific situations, which I really appreciate. I appreciate the film going there and seeing this other side, other dimension of Kara, and seeing her will and her determination. As I mentioned at the start or earlier in this discussion, it might be described from certain points of view as being maybe somewhat naive. Sure, but there's also a sense of the adventure. There's also a sense of not giving up, which I think is very valiant and very admirable on her part. So I admire that very much. I really, really admire that very much. And so that's another reason why I like the Phantom Zone sequence, because it shows a side of Kara. She is really at rock bottom, but she is still determined. And she also is, when she's confronted with some of the threat, for instance, when they're climbing the face of the mountain, trying to climb up to the freedom, whatever that thing is, I don't know. I was going to do another Dark Knight Rises reference, but I'll save that for a little bit later. But because it reminds you of climbing a certain hole or certain passageway to freedom or something. Right, with the cyclone things running by them and the Selena's spells trying to stop them, of course, as they're trying to climb up this thing. There's a moment where Kara says, I can't. and Zoltar takes her hand and protects her. He says, you can, on girl, you can do it, you can do it. I am with you, I am with you. But of course he's not. He's suddenly just stuck and just, I don't know what's going on. What happens for Zoltar here, if he's just given up or he's just totally spent of energy, or maybe he's under the spell of Selena. I'm not sure, but he just suddenly loses it and he says, I am with you, and he just flies through the air down into the Hawaiian Punch, and Zoltar, and he's flying, no, 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 which is a really scary image for me as a kid, I must say. When I saw that in the theater, or when I saw it growing up as a kid, it was really quite scary because, as I say, Zoltar was a very popular character for me anyway, so it was really sad to see him go that way. But I'd like to think that maybe he's still alive. Zoltar is, I mean, many other things have happened. I mean, what do we see, right? What happens after the Return of the Jedi, right? The Book of Boba Fett. So what can we see after Supergirl? Maybe the Book of Zoltar. Could someone who works at a streaming network, get on that series? I'd love to see it. The Book of Zoltar. And who would play Zoltar? I don't know. Maybe we could see Zoltar's upbringing. Maybe Zoltar is from Krypton, right? So maybe we can see Zoltar with those kind of like glowing kind of hazmat suit like things that they wear in Krypton, right? And he's running around with Marlon Brando there, and I don't know, Harry Andrews and some Trevor Howard, right? But yeah, or just yeah, okay, or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. What was I saying? Yes. So the Phantom Zone sequence is so crucial, so critical, and again, it sets the stage for the final triumph of Supergirl, which is needed, much needed, because I think without the Phantom Zone sequence, I think it would have been, I think it would have been somewhat lackluster. And again, we needed to see the depth of the struggle in order to fully appreciate the triumph of the final battle that she is able to confront, and she's able to win, which I think makes it very, very satisfying indeed. And I should say, to that sequence when she's trapped, Supergirl's trapped in the glass there, and we see Selena uncuffing Ethan with the Burundi one. And what does she say? Enjoy your prison, Supergirl, forever and ever. And she just and just flies off in this weird kind of point of view shot. And then it's what a weird, creepy sequence. So kudos to the filmmakers and the Faye Dunaway's laugh and just the over the top aspect of it. And that's great stuff. There's that. It's a great action sequence. Speaking of action sequence, before we get to the climax, I should mention the other key action sequence is the runaway kind of crane tractor sequence, and with Popeyes and Lucy Lane, and she's trying to handle the situation, albeit she doesn't quite do so, because I don't know if I were I don't know about you, but if I were Lucy Lane, I wouldn't at all get into the driver's seat of that vehicle. I would stay the heck away, because I wouldn't want to be any person who decides to file a lawsuit, a civil suit against Lucy Lane for perceived damages that she caused. Right? She was in the driver's seat when, for instance, it nearly killed those people in the wedding, and it crashed into that house there. So I would think, if I were the house owner, I think I'm going to blame this young woman. I'm going to sue her. I'm going to claim damages against her in a court of law, in a civil lawsuit. So I would stay the heck away from that. But that shows her spirit. That shows that she has a sense of justice. She wants to do the right thing. Good for her. There is a way in which maybe it feels a little bit, what's the phrase, hokey, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right word, but it does feel a bit, she's driving and say, right, and she's subdued in that way. But I'm not quite sure what happened. If there was a bit of a shake there, she just turned, and maybe she's not used to driving it. I'm not sure. I mean, I've never driven a vehicle like that, so I'm sure she did much better than I would ever hope to do. But in any event, so that's the action scene, and a Supergirl arrives atop the Popeyes, and she flies through the little water container thing and puts out the fire and uses the laser beams to put out the electricity pole, and it takes the tractor, pulls the crane or head element off, and rescues Ethan, and doesn't rescue Lucy, curiously enough. So I don't know what the heck is up with that. I would assume if I were Supergirl, I would also see what happened to Lucy, because she seems to be out. I don't know, but oh well, oh well, oh well. Maybe she used her X-ray vision to medically examine Lucy, and she discovers that she was okay. But in any event, right. But she rescues Ethan, and so we have that, and then of course the hay, and that's making people not able to see. So there's also this aspect of Supergirl not making herself known in public yet, even when she's making this very public spectacle of saving people. People don't seem to be seeing this person's right. So right at the very end, when she says when it's assumed that they're going to keep her secret, meaning they're not going to tell anyone about Supergirl. So it's like the idea that Supergirl is not known to the public at this point. She's known only to a select few, even when she makes these public appearances to save the day. Apparently, through these circumstances, like the flying hay that goes into people's eyes. I would have hated to have been an extra on that location that day. Oh gosh, I'm going to be an extra on a big budget Hollywood film. Oh gosh, what are we going to do today? Or a big budget film. What are we going to do today? And the person of the director of the first AD says, "Okay, I want you to stand in front in the middle of this town, and we're going to blow all this hay into the air. Does anyone have any allergies to hay? Yes, no, okay, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. It's not going to last just for a few hours. So we're just blow hay. So I just want you to pretend like you can't see, pretend like it's bothering you." And oh, right, you with the glasses. Oh, me, yeah, I really like your acting. You're really good. That's Excuse me, Mr. AD, Mr. Assistant Director. Yes, it's not acting. I really am not enjoying this hay being blown into my face. It's irritating my eyes. It's making my eyes itchy. I'm getting a runny nose. I don't know. Good, good. Keep it up. I like that. I love it. More passion. More passion. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I don't like this. It's not good for my eyes. It's getting all in my hair. It's really unpleasant. I want to go home. No, 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 no. We're only going to be here for a few more hours. Just stick with it. Stick with it. You're doing a great job. Great job. You're going to get a donut after this at the end of the day. What kind of donut? I don't know. I don't know. But you're going to get just hold on. We're going to blow more hay because we need more action. All right, more hay, more hay. Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Director, yes, yes. What do you think? No, let's do it again. I need more hay. You need more hay in this. Okay, I'm sorry, everyone. We're going to have to do the scene over again. So everyone stay put. We're going to get more hay. We're going to get more fans, and we're going to blow them from both directions. So I want you to do what you did, but more. Project more. So could you imagine that, being an extra on that day? I couldn't handle that. But right, everyone did such a great job. You can see with all the hay being blown into their faces. All right. So let's see. There are some more scenes that we have to talk about, including the ending. But before we do, let's go to the chat. All right. Let's see here. All right. Scrolling down. Cooper Glover says, "I don't understand Supergirl getting dirty in quicksand and then her suit is clean after that." Yeah, there's also some rips, like for instance on the elbow area. You can tell when she's climbing, trying to escape the Phantom Zone. There's some rips in her suit, but when she flies through the window there back into the fortress, Selena's fortress, her suit is completely pristine and new. So yeah, I understand. I understand. Omes says Helen Slater is incredible. Her bleeding hand. Yeah, I could feel her pain. I felt the same way exactly. Let's see. The Thirvis Karen. Sorry if I mispronounced that. It's nice to see you. You say, did you ever watch the Red Letter Media review of Supergirl? They did on the Best of the Worst episode. They did not have many good things. I didn't see that. I'm a big fan of Red Letter Media, but I didn't see that episode, I'm afraid. So, oh, pizza roll. Zyrother says, I thought the vortex effect was really neat looking. Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. Cooper Glover says, I remember Hawaiian Punch. I think we have it still here in the US. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Jimbo says, hello from Connecticut. Oh, hello. Hello. Where are you in Connecticut, by the way? I used to live in, I used to go to school in Stamford, Connecticut, and also New Haven. And also I lived in Darien. And I had friends who lived in Norwalk and New Canaan. And yeah, really nice. But I haven't been back in such a long time. Let's see. Let's see. Denny's A is here. Oh, it's nice to see you. I've never seen this. Oh, I'm so sorry. I would recommend checking it out if you can, especially if you like the other films. Let's see. Well, Cooper Glover says, Zoltar, I think the Phantom Zone will be fun. Yes. Why? What does he say in Lawrence of Arabia? It's clean. Yes. Maybe not so much, but anyway. Gerald says, an interesting take is Clark Kent is Superman's disguise, whereas Superman is who he really is. Clark Kent is his reflection or commentary on who he thinks he are, the opposite of most heroes. Master25 is here. Hello from Holland. Let's see. Red Sun says, hi, same here. Never seen this film, but sounds good. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And this says, it's streaming on HBO Plus. Oh, I didn't know that. It's great. Seth Wall says, does Zoltar have any relation to Wish Grading Zoltar? Is that a reference to Big? I'm not sure, but let's see. All right. Cooper Glover says, speaking of extras, me and a friend of mine went for extra casting for Deeds with Adam Sandler. I think they only paid you like $50 a day. My friend called back but decided not to go. Was called back but decided not to go. Red Sun says, Stella Adler taught the Heyman. Interesting. Oh yes, Zarathus says, can't forget the weird shower room scene with the heated water pump. Yes, yes. And the bully, what's her name? Myrna, is that her name? And she's trying to, right, not cold water, but scald them with scalding hot water, which is really quite dangerous. Why? Because Linda Lee thwarted her plan to injure Lucy Lane in the field hockey. All right, and then the shower scene, which is it's kind of an interesting take. I mean, there's a similar type of shower scene that happens at the very start of a Brian De Palma film called Carrie. So could you imagine, right, if Linda Lee just I don't know, if she used her powers, because she apparently has a lot of powers. Could you imagine that? And with all the thing with I don't know, attacking shower heads, but anyway, but she doesn't. I mean, it's a kind of weird subplot that kind of ends at this point, kind of. But oh well. Yes. Vern is here. Vern Griffiths, it's nice to see you, my friend. And you say, so long since I've seen this one. You kind of want it to be better, but it has bags of B-movie charm. I like how you expressed it. Bags of B-movie charm. I think that I agree with that. And I think it really does have that almost like, it has an almost, it has a charm, I know it's not like a canon film, but it has that type of charm to it, which I really admire. There's a scene when Selena and Supergirl are confronting each other for the first time in the amusement park, and Selena's got that thing where she's like extending herself with like her arms, and she's creating the illusion of more Selenas that are surrounding her, and so Supergirl's like, I can't get past her. What am I going to do? These Selenas are surrounding me. What am I going to do? And it takes her a little bit longer than I would think. If I could fly, I would be like flying every time, every moment of my life. I can fly. That's so close. I think, oh, I'm just going to fly over her. But it takes her a little while to figure out that she can just fly over. But anyway, and she does her thing with the pipes, or the things, the metal pipes, and goes them around. Have you seen, not Superman, Spider-Man 3, and the whole thing with the pipes and Venom, but anyway, Yeah. Let's see here. Um, what was I saying? Oh yes. So and then Gerald says, after watching this, I'm inspired to watch my Superman Laserdisc. I'll have to rent Supergirl online tomorrow. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to. Again, it's a very quirky film, and it does stand on its own. So it might not. If one likes Superman, the Superman films, that doesn't automatically mean that one will automatically like Supergirl or not. But it depends. It really depends. So I hope you enjoy it, and please let me know what you think after you've had a chance to see it. I'd love to hear your thoughts anytime. But now going to, again, if I'm going to talk about the ending, so I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but let's talk about the ending. I mean, we had the first confrontation at the amusement park, which is what I know, and then the dangerous magical bumper cars, the football player bumper cars, Ethan. Oh, watch out, Ethan! Watch out, Ethan! And the whole thing with the poles and Supergirl and the confrontation and Selena revealing that she's some connected to Endor. Bianca is like, what's going on? Where's Linda Lee? Where's the wimp? As they were mentioned her later, the wimp or something. And then now we have and then the Phantom Zone and Ethan. Now the final confrontation with the shaky floors and the spikes and the decrepit Nigel and Lucy Lane and Jimmy Olsen atop those spheres of the cage spheres, the spikes, and of course the cold breath breaks the spikes, and they go all into the alcove over there, and they're watching as she's confronting Selena, and Selena says, "Power of shadow, up here!" And then we see above her the giant power of shadow emerges, and again, it's just like Conan the Destroyer. And it's just whoa, this huge thing, and it pulls her into her grips, and pulls her into its grips, and just tries to crush Supergirl in its hands as Selena's showing with it, which I like too. I like how Selena's hands are connected with the power of shadow in this way. It's really cool, really quite effective, and it's a simple effect, but you see it when and you can really feel the pain, and it really makes that scene of how do they show that they elongate the image of Supergirl and they stretch it out and you get the sound effects. It's a really bizarre way, but it shows the elasticity, I suppose, of Supergirl and the fact, right, she does have these superpowers, but she's also quite vulnerable. And it's you could have done it a number of ways. You could have shown like the actual body breaking and unpleasant special effects in terms of injury and blood. You could have done it that way, but they chose a different route here. The filmmakers, they chose this almost abstract way of showing damage, this abstract way of showing injury, which I thought was very effective. That was really effective, and it doesn't last for too long either, so you don't linger upon it too much, which I think is it's there's enough of it just right. It's not overdone, which I appreciate very much. So that is, I think, really well done. And at the point, this is the climax. So if you're either with the film or not at this point, and so uh, if I don't think I think if someone doesn't go along with this point, that person again, no offense, that you don't have to like this film at all, but I think the film would have already there would have been a number of spots along the way prior to this final confrontation that would have lost people who weren't necessarily with the rhythm of the film. You see what I'm saying? So at this point, right, um, you would have you're either with the film or you would have probably been just maybe not convinced of the film, but early on, I would think. But again, there's nothing wrong with that approach. Nothing wrong with that at all. There's no rule that says you have to like this film or that film. And that's holds true definitely for Supergirl. If you don't like this film, if you hate this film, that's totally okay. Totally okay. But for me, I thought it was very effective. I thought it was really effective, cool little effect as a kid, and I still feel this way even now. So with this aspect in mind, then we have the final freedom flying out, and then we have Hart Bachner, Ethan, putting the lid back onto the that lead giant case, whatever that is, that distracts Selena. And then, of course, Nigel with that great line again. I have no idea what he means. Confront her with it. It's the only way. Is it the only way? I'm not sure. But in any event, that gets the final thing with the flying around little like a top spinning around, and take in this little cyclone. And then Bianca too. No, 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 no. Ah! That's my Bianca thing there. And then it's confronting. And then suddenly we have Faye Dunaway in this sort of white inside of the hurricane thing. She spins it, and she's confronted with the Conan the Destroyer power shot. Yeah, so a lot of Faye Dunaway action here. Very abstract, and not, again, I'm not sure what's going on here. I don't quite know what's going on. Is the power of shadow, is that within the cyclone? Is it in the mirror? What's going on? How did Bianca, and are they now in the same cyclone? And then what's going on with that mirror? You're putting the cyclone into the mirror, and then you what is that? What happened? So Supergirl flung the two of them into the mirror together with the power of shadow. What's in the mirror? What's going on? And then she comes out, and then she was able to put the mirror back together again, and then everything's back to normal. Okay, so she was able to figure all this out by Nigel's words. Confront her with it. It's the only. It's a lot of hefty interpretation on the part of Kara there. That's really ingenious, very creative, or you could say WTF moment. What the heck is going on here? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea, but it worked. It worked. It worked. And we're in the realm of magic and the unexplainable, the inexplicable. So again, one goes with it or doesn't. I'm perplexed. I really have no idea what happened here. I don't know how Selena was defeated. I don't know what the concept was. What happened to the power shadow? I thought the power shadow was already in this world, not in the world of the mirror. So don't get that. I don't get it at all. But when I was a kid, I thought it was cool. And I watch it again now. I thought it was cool. It kind of makes sense. And again, I run with it. And we understand that for whatever reason, however this world of the physics works, again, I don't know, but for whatever reason, unexplained, she won. So, and then now we've got the Omega Hedron back in her hand, and she cradles it like I don't know, like a bird that has fallen from the sky, but now is being nursed back to health and that sort of thing. And then the Lucy Lane and Jimmy Olsen say, "Oh yeah, it's okay. We won't reveal your secret identity. We won't tell anyone." I bet. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, Jimmy Olsen, come on. This is one of the biggest scoops of his career. What do you think? But anyway, but then Hart Bachner's Ethan says, "Yeah, I know. You don't have to say, I know." So Hart Bachner, well done. And he's off to, and I can imagine maybe if this is in the same universe as Die Hard, maybe he just says, "Oh, maybe I'll go find another job. I'll quit my job as a landscape artist, and well, I'll go work for this company, Nakatomi, and we'll see where that takes me. And maybe I'm heading for high places, and I can reach for the stars in my new career at Nakatomi, and we'll see where that takes me." So that's probably what happens to Ethan. Changes his name, going like that. And I mean, it's totally off topic, but one of my favorite lines from the film Die Hard, starring Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. "What's your name?" Alan Rickman says, "Clay." Oh, I love that line. I love that. Clay. Oh, that's great. But yeah, and then that ends the film. And where does Supergirl go? But she flies right into the lake, and then somehow flying into the lake with the Omega Hedron in her hand will automatically transport her to Argo City. Now, she's been away for so long, as I mentioned earlier, she's been away for so long, I would think that Argo City would be in pretty dire straits right now, but they seem to be okay, I think. So where was the threat? Where was right? So they could have been, they would have been okay, but oh well, oh well. I'm glad they're okay because they live to, again, see another day. And that's the whole point. And that's, again, the great fantasy element of this film, Supergirl. So, my dear friends, Here's Supergirl in a nutshell, or in like a spider in right within two shells of a nut, as it were. So, um, yeah, let's go to the chat. All right. Cooper Glover asks Daisuke, what if Selena was from the other dimension where Supergirl was from? That's certainly possible. I don't see anything in the film that indicates that to me per se, but I suppose anything is possible in terms of interpretation. Cooper Glover continues, that shadow creature made me think of the Balrog. Oh, interesting. From Fellowship, yes. Gerald says, I seen this film, but many years ago on HBO. It was like a B movie. Fun watch and story overall, but fell short of expectations when compared to the first two Superman films. That's very fair. Very, very fair. David Squires continues to say, I seem to recall they wanted Brooke Shields for the lead role in Supergirl, but she was said to be too tall for the part. Odd. Uh, let's see. Zyrother says they wanted an unknown actor for the lead. Cooper Glover says Superman 3 is a much better film than Supergirl. I kind of enjoy Superman 3 though. I don't know if I think it's a bad film. Satori is here. Hello. Um, let's see. Just scrolling down. Denny's A mentions the possibility of a remake of Supergirl. I mean, I know there's the series, the Supergirl series, which I haven't seen to be totally to admit that I haven't seen the series of Supergirl, the newer series. Again, Zyrus is just go with the flow. Let's see. Cooper Glover continues, maybe Daisuke, the magic has to work in the context of the film, so I guess you might have had to rework the script to make the film work better, like maybe make Selena come from the other dimension. Oh, maybe. Let's see. Omesh says, in finale Faye Dunaway with the wind machine reminds you of Meiko Kaji. Ooh, interesting. Yes. Yes, very interesting. And then Cooper Glover says Daisuke Argo City would never die off because it's a Superman film. Yes, but of course, right? What happened to Krypton? So anyway, yes. So that's Supergirl in a nutshell, or as I say, a spider within two shells of a nut. So I guess we have a few more minutes remaining, but let me say once again that and if you want to continue with the chat, I'll be here for another 10 or 15 minutes. So, but let me just say in conclusion that this is a film that it is, as I say, there's flights of fancy in terms of and leaps of logic, and there are things that are completely left unexplained, and there are moments that are just again WTF to the max. I mean, serious WTF moments. I mean, really, what the right? Quite seriously. But one of the things about watching movies, and one of the fun aspects about watching movies is watching films, and you can watch them and try to poke holes through the plot. That's part of the fun of watching films like this. Is just like thinking, what's going on here? That's part of the fun. Seeing some of the dialogue, that weird choices, the coconut from the sky, Peter Cook's suit, right? Just these weird, the Burundi one. It's these weird choices, but again, that's part of the charm. And then within that, you have links to the other Superman films that are there, but then are not there. Things that are explained, but then mostly unexplained. But that's, again, part of the charm, I would say. And then we have aspects that I think really drive the plot in a way that's very forceful and very compelling. And this is down to, say, key sequences like the Phantom Zone sequence that I tried to mention, the chemistry between Zoltar and Kara, the performances, Peter O'Toole in particular, Faye Dunaway in particular, Helen Slater in particular. Let me once again applaud Helen Slater. I like the youthfulness that she brings to the role, and there is I don't want to call it a type of innocence because it is there is a type of inherent moral code within her, which I really admire. There's also a curiosity that she exhibits, which I also very much admire. And it's never in a way, I don't see it as a, I mean, Supergirl, there is a way in which Supergirl is maybe she is objectified, the trucker sequence, and she's nearly assaulted by these truckers or her outfit, etc. But what I like about Helen Slater's performance is that she always grounds the character with a sense of purpose and also a sense of curiosity about the world around her, and also her mission to try to get the Omega Hedron, and also things about herself, which I think are very, I think are very, very worthy of praise. So that is, those are some elements which I think make the film quite a compelling experience. Now, as I say, it's not perfect in all avenues, but again, a film doesn't have to be perfect in all avenues to still be a good time. And I enjoyed this film immensely, and I enjoy, I guess, going with along with the film, and also I enjoy, maybe with great respect, I enjoy, uh, you know, poking holes in a little bit of the over fancifulness of the film. Let's put it that way. But that again, that's part of the charm, and I think there's nothing wrong with having that type of playfulness when one is watching or engaging with a film. But I do like this film in a variety of ways like that. I think some people like Vern, for instance, I think said there's B movie aspects to it, which I agree with totally. It does have that sense of a camp film, totally. It has a sense of a cult film, cult classic 80s film, totally, totally. But in those ways, those are really great driving factors that allow for the immense entertainment quality of a particular work. And I would dare say that Supergirl falls within that category quite comfortably for me, which is why I enjoy it very much. I should say, coming full circle with how I started the conversation, I'll end it here, and then we'll go to the chat. But I will end where I began, which is it is a film from my childhood. And maybe that means I'm looking at it through the proverbial rose-colored glasses or rose-tinted glasses. If that's the case, then so be it, because I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But even now, as I look back on it, I identify things that I think are very, very quirky and campy that I might not have necessarily identified or recognized when I was a kid growing up watching this film. That's for sure. I admit that. But even that identification of the quirky or campy aspects of this film, Supergirl, doesn't thwart my ability to be entertained. But on the contrary, it adds yet further dimension, I think, for my own sense of entertainment with this film. It's like, if Maximus asked me, are you not entertained? I would say, heck yes, I'm entertained. I'm very much entertained. And so, do I laugh along with the film? Yes. Do I laugh sometimes at the film? Yes. But I think that's very fair game, and that's in no way indicative of a type of dislike. But on the contrary, I very much like this film, and I've tried to explain the reasons why here. You don't have to feel exactly the same way I do. There's no rule that says you have to. And so I totally get it. I totally get the criticisms. I totally understand where this film falls short and falls flat, or perhaps falls very, very definitely flat for a number of people. That's totally fine. It is its own thing. It is very different, perhaps too different, perhaps too much its own thing when it compared to the great splendor and majesty and true beauty and success that are the Superman films. And for many people, in particular, the first and second films, or in particular, the first film. But that's a very high bar to meet. And I admire the film for not trying to copy the formula, but trying to do something different, going the magic sorcery route, going the whole inexplicable. I mean, Cooper Glover mentioned Buñuel. I think that's a really great way to describe it. This is very surreal. It's very abstract. It's very, again, nonsensical. And there are elements that seem thrown in there almost with a sense of whimsical, without some concrete explanation. But again, I think one can say that that's part of the charm, and I certainly see it that way. And so I very much appreciate and admire this film for all its merits and for all the entertainment factors that it can provide for me, and I know for many other people. And so this is Supergirl again. In the spider in the proverbial two shells of a nut. All right. All right. So yes, that's it for Supergirl. So we have a few more minutes before I am off with some errands today. But if you have any other comments, please let me know. Our next live stream discussion, again, it's not scheduled yet. I don't know when it's scheduled. Maybe 2 weeks from now. I will make a formal announcement here and also on Instagram. But the next discussion will be Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So, and that will be the final discussion in the Superman live stream series. So that will be, yes, it'll be just in time for the end of the year. So we're now in the middle we're almost toward the end of November. My goodness, it's so fast. But um, and then after that, who knows in terms of the live stream? Well, I'll try to figure out a new schedule and a new series of films, maybe at the start of the new year, 2023. But for right now, yes, Supergirl, and next will be Superman for the Quest for Peace. Most likely 2 weeks from today, but again, not sure. I will make a formal announcement as soon as I am able to. So Superman for the Quest for Peace will be the next and final discussion in this run of live stream discussion. So I hope you're interested. But before that, let's see. Any last minute chat comments? I'm here if you want to chat. So thank you so much, my dear friends. Thank you. All right. Yeah, my stomach's grumbling. So I need to have some cereal and some milk, but I can hold off for another 5 or 10 minutes. Not a problem. But excuse me if you hear my stomach growling. So, all right. Jarrison, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Days A says, Daisuke, how do you select your movies for the live stream? Well, this was already selected maybe a few months back, so it was just a matter of announcing it. And then so next time, I don't know, after Superman for the Quest for Peace, maybe I'll try to ask for suggestions. But usually has to be a film that I'm comfortable enough with to be able to talk kind of just off the cuff. You know what I mean? So if I've seen the film only once or twice or so, I won't be comfortable enough to be able to talk about it like this. But if it's a film that I've seen a number of times, and ideally if it's a film that I've seen since childhood, then it'll be very easy for me just to talk about it in terms of my memories and then also my childhood experiences and also how I approach it now, much older in life. So and then also relying on my recollections from the film. So usually it has to be a film that I'm familiar with since early age. The Superman films fit the bill quite nicely. So yes. So Cooper Clever asked maybe cover directors. It's a little bit difficult. At the moment I am actually doing that with say the Cronenberg series and the De Palma series and the Angelopoulos series. So actually I am doing that, but in the live stream format, it's actually a little bit difficult. And so I need to have. It's a great idea. Don't get me wrong, but I'm very. I love doing YouTube. I love doing live streams. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoy it, but it does take a certain bit of energy for me, which oftentimes it's very hard for me to keep up. And so I'm uh, if I have this long project in a live stream format, it usually means that that's actually a lot of time that I'm not sure I'll be able to commit wholeheartedly. I'd love to, but it's just again, I don't know what will happen between now and say 2 months from now, and so 3 months from now, or even 1 month from now, and so I always have to try to think in terms of a limited number of series. I mean, the James Bond films were a bit of an anomaly, I suppose, in that, but I could it was I had I guess I could say that. Yeah, I mean, if it's something like the James Bond films, I could do something like that. But if it's a director series, it's a little bit different because I can't say that I can speak with this type of energy for all the films in a director's catalog. You know what I mean? Like if there's a director that I really love, for instance, John Carpenter. I mean, I love John Carpenter films, but there are some films in the John Carpenter catalog that I think are very difficult for me to be able to talk about in a live stream format. It would be very difficult. Same thing is true even for Cronenberg. I mean, I love Cronenberg films, but there are some films that are actually quite difficult to talk in a live stream format for me anyway. So I don't know if the director's idea would work for me. It could work for others, definitely. If you or others want to try it, that's great, great. I totally support it, 100%. Not a problem. Like, for instance, I think someone mentioned a while back, oh, why don't you do a live stream discussion series on Stanley Kubrick? And so uh, that is a very, I mean, I admire the works of Kubrick very much so, but that is very intensive, very and intense. And I don't think I have the intelligence or the stamina to be able to withstand that level of intensity. So I wish I did. I wish I had that appropriate level of energy to be able to approach that type of project, but I don't, unfortunately. So that's why I probably won't be able to do directors with this in this format. Although I I think it's a really good idea, a very good idea indeed. Timothy asked, "What about the Indiana Jones films?" Yes, that's interesting. Although it might be for me, like just going through up to say Last Crusade. Not sure. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. A lot of mixed feelings, actually, admit. But yeah, it's certainly a possibility. That's a good idea. Or let's see, Planet of the Apes is mentioned. Interesting. So yeah, I saw the Planet of the Apes films, the five of them, right, up to Battle, the Planet of the Apes, as a kid, and I love. Right, I think it's the same character, the same actor who plays Danvers in Supergirl. He's at the beginning of Escape from the Planet of the Apes, right? He says, "Welcome, Jenna, to the and then you've got Jerry Goldsmith, right? It's great, dun 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 ba ba da da down now na 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 Milo Milo da 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 da. Oh, it's so cool! Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Oh, wow. Wow, yes, yes. I love that theme song. Da, 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 da. Right. Um, anyway, yeah. Um, yes, and Cooper Clever mentions the Apes prequels, but I don't know those films so comfortably to be able to talk about them in a live stream format. So they're very interesting films, but I don't know if I'd be able to talk about those. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I mentioned possibly the Alien films, but if we were to talk about the Alien films, I would probably go Alien, Aliens, and then Alien 3. I don't know if I'd be able to talk about Alien Resurrection even. I could try, but it's a little bit difficult for me. But then also, I wouldn't be able to talk about Prometheus or Alien Covenant at all. So that's the kind of give and take in terms of my ability to be able to do live streams in a way that's satisfactory for me and effective. So very limited in that way. Seth Walsh says, "Escape from New York" or "Escape from LA." Yes, I have spoken about those though in video discussions and about John Carpenter films. So that's certainly a possibility. I um I do like I do like I guess I've spoken about the film. I haven't decided yet, but I've spoken about the film Night of the Living Dead before. But I do want to do a redo of that, and then do a redo of Night of the Living Dead, and then go on to talk about Dawn of the Dead, and then go on to talk about Day of the Dead. So talk about those three films. And that's, if I were to do that, I don't know if I'd then talk about Land of the Dead or Dire of the Dead or Survival of the Dead, but that might be a possibility. So, Zyro mentions Tron. Yes, Tron, and then Tron Legacy. So yes, I am a huge fan of Tron. I've seen that film so many times, so many times. Yeah, I feel comfortable being able to talk about that in a live stream, perhaps. But again, we shall see. We shall see. Yeah. So, any other ideas? Yeah, we still have some time left. So, if you have any more ideas, let me know. You don't have to let me know now. Of course, you can always drop me a comment or send me a message, your YouTube or Instagram. Anything's fine. The first three Dead films are great. Uh, I was thinking too about, say, the Batman films. I would love the opportunity one day to talk about Batman and Robin. Oh, wow, talk about Batman or Batman Returns. Wow, wow. But I don't know. Maybe after doing the superhero films with Superman, I don't know. I don't know if it's take a break a little bit. Maybe we can always return to the world of the superhero films and the Batman films. So I don't know if it would be immediate, but that might be yes. Holy Rusted Metal Batman. Yes, as Arthur says. Yeah, it's metal. It's full of holes. It's holy. Yes. Batman Forever. Yes. Another line I love from Batman Forever is when the Riddler says, "Joy gasm." Yes. Timothy asks Star Wars. Oh, it's a possibility. Um, let's see. It's also War Games. Oh, yes. 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 Right. How about a nice game of chess? Yes, of course. Yes, indeed. I saw War Games in the theater too. Yes, my goodness. Back to the Future. Also, I was thinking Back to the Future. I love those films as well. Back to the Future. I saw those in the theater as well. Uh, and right, you're my Uncle Joey, huh? Better get used to these bars, kid. Yeah. So yes, we could do that. Gyros says Blade trilogy. Oh, it's interesting. Blade trilogy. Gerald asks maybe Jackie Chan. That's possible. Jerison asks, "You're still on?" Yes, I'm still here, although I'm going to be going in about a minute or so. Just seeing if there are any suggestions for what we do after the Superman live stream discussion is over. The last discussion will be Superman 4 will be the next and last discussion. Lord of the Rings is possible. RoboCop. Oh, very interesting. Yes. Um, yeah, right. I work for Dick Jones. Dick Jones. Yes, yes. Um, very interesting. Very. Jerison asks about this collaboration between Star Wars, Mandalorian, and Ghibli. I haven't seen this. No. Let's see. Okay, so I think if you have any other ideas, my dear friends, please let me know. I'd very much like to hear that. Cooper Glover asked Stephen King. Ooh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Um, we shall see. Again, if you have any other ideas, please let me know. I'd very much be interested. You can let me know again in separate comments, etc. So, Koreeda films, interesting. Although similar thing. I don't know if Koreeda films are actually they're very. It's kind of intense discussion. Like I was talking about Afterlife, that was a very intense discussion. So I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Gremlins. Oh yes, Gremlins. Um, I saw those two films in the theater as well. Gremlins and Gremlins 2: The New Batch. I had the Gremlins. Wasn't there a Game Boy game called Gremlins 2? I seem to recall. Yeah, yeah. No, but anyway. All right, so I've got to get going now. So thank you so much, my dear friends, for joining. Very much appreciated as always. Very much appreciated indeed. And I will announce the schedule for the next and final Superman live stream discussion on this channel, which will be Superman for the Quest for Peace, probably 2 weeks from today. But check out, I will make the official announcement very soon when I know. But I hope to see you there, my dear friends. So the next discussion will be Superman 4 Quest for Peace. So if you are interested, you can go and try to find a copy, find it online, streaming somewhere. I'm not sure if it's streaming online. I hope it is. Or if you can get a copy of it, Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, whatever the case may be, please check it out. It's a very interesting film. And looking forward to that discussion about Superman for the Quest for Peace. So, my dear friends, thank you so much. I will see you very soon. But have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend wherever you are in the world. We will talk again very soon. And until then, my friends, thank you and cheers. Or as Zaltar says, squirt. no idea what's going on, but that's great. That's great. All right, my dear friends, cheers or squirt.